Hi everyone, and welcome to Humor Layer Security, Remote Work and Personal Resilience, a webinar which is part of the Big Reset Days. The remote work approach has become more and more popular in the last decade. The combination of social isolation due to the pandemic situation and the availability of already existing and available technologies has revealed that we can use this approach in many more areas. But changing the way we work now introduces entirely new perspective in terms of cyber criminals towards unauthorized access. Security concerns have become an issue that we cannot neglect anymore. In this session, we are going to talk about how to manage security controls while achieving cyber hygiene, and we are going to focus on the different approaches for remote work. And now I would like to present you Pavel Yosifov, who is a business development manager for our cybersecurity portfolio of BULPROS. And later on, we'll talk Lubomir Tulev, who is Chief Cybersecurity Architect and Business Information Technology Consultant. Both of them have extensive experience in different areas of cybersecurity solutions, implementing, consulting them in different organizations. So maybe we can start with Pavel. So Pavel, can you please tell us about the different remote work options and why these are challenging when it comes to cybersecurity?
Thank you, Danny.
There you are.
Thank you. Hi all, greetings. Thanks for having us. Thanks for spending the time today with us in the next 40 minutes to an hour. We are gathered here to discuss remote work, and what we understand behind remote work is home office, right? But to be more broad and honest, it's much more than that. There are a lot more use cases than that. And I wanted to start with broadening this a little bit so we can go the same direction and figure out how this is moving without really touching so much the pandemic situation. We are all hearing a lot about it. Me personally, I prefer to talk more about how things are going besides the pandemic situation. So you've heard lately a lot about home office. It's been quite a buzz for some time now due to this unfortunate situation we're in now. And the reason for that is obvious. It's because companies are trying to keep their businesses running and pushing their employees to start working from home. But it's more than that. I'm not going to talk about the pandemic now. I'll drop a bit later to that topic and share with you what kind of implications it puts. But I also wanted to talk about the other aspects, like let's take financial services, for example. We are more or less used nowadays to be served remotely in the financial services. Let's take banking. In banking, me personally, I'm not visiting a branch unless I really have to. And with time, this kind of necessity is going away more and more. Now there are banks that are completely online, so there are no branches. There are also banks that are providing a lot of their services online, like you can even apply for a loan online. You don't have to visit anything. And sitting on the other side, guess what? The person that is taking care of your documents, interviewing you for the loan, etc., they don't have to really work from an office. They can do all this from home if we want to do that. So another financial services business that is also a good example is insurance, because I think that insurance are one of the businesses that are now digitalizing more and more. They're doing that very rapidly. There was some legal implications in the near past that forbid them from doing that, but now this is not the case, and you see a lot of online insurance companies, brokers, and etc., that you can do your online insurance. So if you travel or even for your car, and moreover, you can even do a claim online. So like your car got scratched or hit, you can take pictures and send them over through an application or on your mobile, and then you're served online. You don't have to visit them. The next one that I wanted to emphasize on is healthcare, because it's really important, and now we understand it very the tough way, because we are used to either treat ourselves by our own or going to the doctor very often. But now in the pandemic situation, we were actually encouraged to stay more home and not visit hospitals and stuff like that. And when you come to think about it, what did you do during that period? You would call your personal doctor and ask them, hey, I feel like this and this and this, what do I do? Why do we not do that in normal circumstances? Why not? Why do you have to spend half an hour traveling to the doctor's office, then probably an hour waiting outside, by the way, amongst people that are potentially sick? Why you can do that remotely? And healthcare and telemedicine in particular are big trends, for example, in the US market. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. And education. Yeah, education as well. Courses online, exams online. You have a lot of things that are done online nowadays. We're even doing that right now today. But it's not that it's education, but still, sort of. So I wanted to give you some numbers here, guys, in order to really understand that these are not trends that are driven by COVID. These are trends that were driven in the last decade very, very steadily. For the last 10 years, all these trends are very, very clear. If you go back 10 years, can you think of home office? Was that something that we were able to do? Really? It was more like a luxury, right? Some C-level management people were given that kind of luxury to work from home. Most of us were not allowed to do that. What about using your laptop or a mobile to apply for a loan? Completely unthinkable. Or even renew your insurance, as I said before. Even things like buying a vignette for your car. It's now done remotely. You don't have to. You remember a few years back, you had to go to a station, probably the gas station, and buy physically that. You don't have to do that anymore. So this digitalization drives these remote kind of approaches. And it's really important to understand what are the drivers behind that. Healthcare, I remember a few years back, there was this incentive or idea from the government for everybody to have a digital record, healthcare record. It was a complete negative response from the people, because they were all concerned that now everybody will be able to jeopardize that and see my blood type or my diseases or whatever. So the sensitivity of that information is really, really high. And this is why one of the reasons still in our region we're not seeing a lot of that. But the trend is there, and in the US, there is a study I read recently. In the US, they're predicting that in the next 5 years, telemedicine will grow 5 times. So for the last decade, it's been growing more or less like 30% year over year, but now they're expecting a boom. And remote education, when I was a student, it wasn't 10 years ago, unfortunately. It was quite more than that. But still, even after that, remote trainings, remote sessions, remote study was not that common. We had very, very few options to do that. Universities were not there, mentality was not there, technology was more or less ready, but now we're much more ready to do that. And all of these, remote works, I just wanted to show you that now is becoming very obvious to a lot of people, but actually these are growing without the COVID boost. Even in areas and places we thought were hard, like healthcare. So what security challenges does this kind of work imply? So if you think back in centuries back, how we used to protect our cities and our people, we were building walls, right? We were surrounding our cities with walls, and these walls were setting a perimeter. If something happens, a conflict, then everybody behind the wall, and then we defend the perimeter. This was more or less the approach with cybersecurity until 10-ish years ago. Now this is not the case because these kind of remote approaches and activities, they are breaking up that wall. We don't have the perimeter anymore. Everybody is staying wherever they need or want, and they are supposed to be able to do the same kind of job. And this breaks the wall down. But apart from that, even more is the fact that not only are we sitting wherever we want, we're also using whatever endpoint device we want. So be it my own personal laptop or my mobile or the company laptop or my friend's laptop, I'm able, due to the cloud technologies, to connect to the resources and access them, and access the data and the information and interact with it, and extract it and share it and transfer it and whatever. So this is one of the reasons that now cybersecurity or the protection of these is not as simple as it used to be. A lot of companies are already there, very mature in the perimeter defense, but the sprawl of cloud is and remote work is actually tearing this apart. And the only thing that's left, to be honest, I'll let Lubo talk more about that. You will see. The only other thing is the people themselves. Okay, so we have to rely on the people and on them to really understand when something is malicious, when something is wrong, to have a self-conscious. Now, I know that when we talk about cybersecurity, typically what we face is, yeah, but this is not happening to me. They're just scaring us because these are not real things. Yeah, it happened to somebody, but they didn't take enough care. We are here. We've compiled some stories. I'm not going to talk about all of them. Neither am I going to talk about all the stories that I know, because in my 10 years experience in cybersecurity, only the stories that I know and I've been part of would be enough to fill that hour and even more. But I just want to share one with you. It's very, very simple, very quick. It's about a company that was doing business sourcing resources from outside of Bulgaria. It's a Bulgarian company. They had that problem. Their supplier was changing the headquarters. So they were moving the headquarters to another country. They knew that. They were expecting that. And all of a sudden they receive an email that says, okay, now we're moving the headquarters, as you know. Here is our new bank account. Please transfer the money for the goods that we're sending to that bank account. And the way it turned out in the end is that this is a fake email. They transferred the money. Actually, they did it twice in two in a row. So before figuring out that this is a scam and this is malicious, and the money were gone. I wanted to also share some cases here to tell you two things. First, it's not that this Bulgarian company. This is not happening to a Bulgarian company because they are less prepared than others. That's not the case. It's happening all over the globe. That's one thing. And the other thing is, all of these that you see here, and a lot more than them, are actually driven by humans, human errors, people that did not pay enough attention, things that the systems would not have a way to identify. Yeah, a lot of these. So why is this happening actually? Why are we, the people, becoming targets? There's a lot of reasons, but I'll just stick to the three I think are most important. First of all, we are breaking the rules all the time. I mean, all the time. When you feel safe, when you feel confident, when everything's okay, you know, like these guys, the accountant was very confident because the circumstances showed, yeah, they're moving. Yeah, I know that. I know these guys. I'm expecting this. Then you're easily, overlooking things and you're not paying attention. Also, sometimes we tend to just say, okay, just once I'll do that. No harm, just once, right? I'm doing that with my dad, for example. But anyway, probably most of us have done it anyway. The other thing is we're making mistakes. People are prone to make mistakes. It's part of the human beings. And a lot of times, I guess you've heard or you've done it yourself. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. Or, for example, one of the most interesting things that I did, is I sent the wrong email to the wrong person, the possibly most wrong person that couldn't have received that. But I guess most of us have done that already, anyway. So we are making mistakes. It's in our nature. And the other thing is that we can be tricked, we can be mischieved, we can be misled, intentionally, of course, and act inappropriately. Like we're seeing that here even now with these telephone scams that are calling people, telling them your I don't know, your mother is or your son is in the hospital, you have to send money or something like that. It's more or less the same here, but with emails and stuff like that. All of us have received these kinds of spam that are doing that, trying to mislead us. But it's not only that, to be honest. There's more to it. For example, you can take a research. This one that I'm going to quote was done by AIG. So what they did is they conducted the research, and there is a report that states that 88% of the breaches caused last year were based on human error. People did something wrong, what we're doing even right now is that we're telling people how to do that. We're telling the criminals not how, but where to attack. I'm telling you that the humans now, we are the weakest point, and everybody can hear that and they can take advantage of it. And we don't have to hear it, by the way. They already know it because they're trying it, and reports like that are validating it. But breaking into this kind of into the endpoint or jeopardizing a person's behavior, it doesn't make sense if there is nothing there. If you're entering an empty room, you're not going to break in, right? So actually the real reason behind all of these is that we are holding the key to the vault, the people. We are using the data. We have access data. We have personal data on our endpoints, or we have access to it. We have financial data, company data, whatever data you want to name, we have access to it, or most of it has access to some of it. So it's much easier to break through us and then bypass whatever security systems are there, rather than trying to breach the security systems themselves. So these are the main drivers and the main reasons that are putting us on the front line, the people. And now COVID. Is COVID affecting that? And I can tell you, yes, it's affecting it big time. And there are few aspects of that. First of all, it's affecting us as people in our mentality, and making us more. This situation is making us more prone to react impulsively, and this confusion and fear that we now feel. It's I don't know. It's making us just sometimes stupid things. Yeah, I hate to quote that, but there are Americans that drank the cleaning chemicals because their president just joked about it on one of his sessions. So it's an obvious joke, but still people drank it, and yeah. So we're acting more or less the same when it comes to things that are talking to us about, hey, I have new masks here, good price, or here is a cure, or here is how to act here, whatever. Sometimes, what if I send you an email, guys, or somehow reach out to you on the social media and tell you, hey, we are making a list of vaccines here, waiting list. If you can subscribe now, once the vaccine is done, you'll be in the front. There are people that don't like vaccines, but that's a different story. A lot of people will buy that because they're confused, they're scared, they are not living in normal circumstances, and they feel vulnerable. Yeah, the other thing also is the fact that we're all in a hurry right now. Now, we thought we were in a hurry before, but now everybody is really, really, really in a hurry because our businesses, our jobs, what we do really depends on doing this quickly. Otherwise, we might see it fail. Because if in these crisis situations, everybody is trying to be as quick as possible in saving their businesses or securing their job or whatever. And again, when you're in a hurry, you fail to see the details, right? You just skip them. On the other side, also in the hurry scenario, companies are in a hurry. They're in survival mode, which means that they're reducing costs. So what that means is everything that is not actually directly related to revenue or how to keep the business secured, meaning the money secured, is being either postponed or completely dropped. And guess what? Cybersecurity is not bringing anybody money except for companies that are developing cybersecurity solutions. So this is one of the things that companies are not investing on or are putting on hold in crisis times. And On top of this, when people are now working from home and the growth of this working from home, cyber criminals are also identifying that. So they know that companies are not going to pay enough attention to security just because they want to be as quick as possible in adopting the remote home. They know that a lot of people will be going remotely and they're not trained, they're not aware of how to protect themselves, and they're targeting us, the people, rather than the systems. And this is something that we really need to try to tackle. And it's not about the COVID, it's in general, as I mentioned before. So some companies have already started, trying to give some guidelines. You see here, this is an example from one company that is giving some ideas for their employees how to work securely in a remote environment. They're doing that all the time. This is improving and improving, but it's something that just gives an indication. Hey guys, this is very simple, very straightforward. Keep these two recommendations, follow them, and you should be fairly okay. But the real problem is that we still have to rely on the humans. The only thing, by the way, that is common in all the remote work approaches that I showed you in financials, homework, etc. Everything goes around the people. So systems are different, business cases are different, everything is different, but it's related to people. So this is why we're talking about human-centric. This is why remote work and security are now around the people. And I'd like to give the word and the stage to Lubo, who will now tell you how we can tackle this. Lubo.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Hello, everybody. Very nice to meet you, all of you, on this e-conference. So we're gonna play here this role of, playing the bad and the good police officer, and not just because I have been part of the law enforcement authority a couple of years ago, but in reality, what Pavel has mentioned is, it sounds like giving you the problem and discussing what are the issues. Now I'm gonna present you actually what is the solution and how we can tackle this and how we can handle all of these problems. Because all what he has mentioned is absolutely true, and it's a totally new reality. It means it's a totally new world where we live now, not just because of the COVID, but everything. We see that because of these restrictions, a lot of actually companies have been pushed to digitalize their business, and they were not prepared about that. And this the bigger problem. So it's a new email. And Pavel has mentioned that the vast majority of the so-called social engineering attack vectors is being processed, is being done through phishing emails. Let me give you a couple of insights and just interesting statistics. Just after the first week of COVID-19 restrictions globally, there were over 2,000 domain names registered in relation to anything what is connected with COVID, with vaccine, World Health Organization, and so on and so forth. What do you think these domains will be used about? Well, of course, about phishing, about social engineering, and about targeting and infecting the humans, the people. So phishing is lame, and it causes breaches. It has been covered with the major breaches which are happening. Another interesting article shows that in the last year in the United States, over 91% of all the entire breaches of infrastructure compromises has happened due to lack of enough trainings and in lack of notifications about finding and spotting and detecting social engineering attack vectors. So definitely, phishing is the major door which the attacker nowadays uses to enter our infrastructure. And it's obvious because no matter how many investments you've put in, different devices, appliances, software, hardware, in order to better protect your infrastructure, it's still the most vulnerable one. The weakest point, unfortunately, remains the human. And it's exactly the point where the attackers, first of all, are trying to exploit because are very vulnerable, and due to exploiting people, actually, you can reach out a lot of resources in this infrastructure. So phishing won't sin. But on the other side, people can also be used to keep it out. And that's our visionary solution, which we're going to talk about in the next couple of slides. So technology alone won't save us. And no matter how many guards you circle and put around the people, they still will break the rules, right? As Pavel has mentioned. So technology alone will not work. But when we combine the power of technology and people, this can give us a benefit. And it has been considered for over a decade, that humans are actually the weakest link in the information security chain. But what about if we think a little bit opposite? What if this conception is wrong? What if people just haven't been trained enough, or haven't been focused on those social engineering attack vectors? So that's our visionary here. We want really to empower, to help to turn your organizations, to turn your employees into a part of your business cybersecurity layer defense, so that not just to protect the humans as your assets, but also using their power to help straighten up your organization. And here we're going to talk about our BULPROS human layer security as a vision, as an approach, how we can tackle this problem. And we as cybersecurity professionals, we are fully aware of the 3 different types of controls we can implement in order to secure our infrastructure, our end host machines. And they're basically defined in the physical controls, guards, windows, fences, and camera surveillance, and so on and so forth. Administrative controls, implementing a lot of policies, procedures, guidelines, baselines, and all the rest in order to achieve a compliance with the major certificates in the global perspective, right? So the third one, the logical controls, or also known as technical, hardware, software, which can better protect and save our infrastructure. But all of these 3 types of controls, we're missing the most important one. And traditionally, what we're missing were actually the human. So that's what we want to achieve. We want actually to express and to give you this vision to address the humans as part of this layered security defense and this so-called defense in-depth solution. So to put an extra layer between your data, between your information assets you're trying to protect, and the rest of the security controls. So to implement a human layer security. What do we mean, and how actually we imagine the human layer security? In reality, what we suggest is using a combined methodology. As we started with, we cannot just rely on the technology, neither on the humans. So why don't we merge them? Why don't we combine them, right? So let's start with the security awareness. And as we have mentioned here in the presentation, by the way, saying presentation, I suppose it's stupid, but still, you can double click on the window where you see the presentation just to enlarge it if you want to see the presentation much bigger picture. So let's start with the security awareness program. Traditionally, according to the last couple of statistics, globally, companies are spending not more than 20% of the companies globally have spent in the last 1 year time and efforts to educate, to train their employees. And those of them who have spent this time to train their employees, actually, the training lasted not more than 50 to 30 minutes. So how can we imagine 15 to 30 minutes to tackle this problem, to stop attackers who can do and invest a lot of their efforts attacking our infrastructure and our employees 24/7? Well, definitely it's not enough. So that's why we want to recommend, and we really want to push for continuous, and that's the tricky point. So we really want to push on managed security awareness continuous training. How do we see that, this continuous training? It shouldn't be, something which is standalone, because if it's not part of their daily job routine work, they would be bored. They would do it just because they're pushed to do that, right? So you have to find a flexible way how you can merge and how you can push this security program becoming part of their daily work regime. So our vision about that to be this continuous. So let's start for a baseline assessment in a company to see what is the security posture, what is the percentage of people who are vulnerable, and those who can detect actually the social engineering simulation. And just by having this initial level of security posture, then we can apply and then we can put a specific, targeted, individualized program for this specific company. And the idea is to provide them a lot of different techniques for education, like different video trainings, modules, quizzes, and so on and so forth, becoming part of their daily work. And then, just by simulation, a variety of social engineering attack vectors like phishing, like smishing, the SMS phishing, or basically attacking through the mobile phones, or also vishing. So USB drive-by campaigns. So using this technology, first to train them, to teach them about the different security social engineering attack vectors, and then testing by simulation, by simulating what exactly an attacker can make in order to cause this breach, in order to intercept, in order to break the security. So that's how, if we keep this process continuous and ongoing all the time, then we can ensure that we will make our employees be more proactive and being, those type of people where they are really willing to help to achieve much bigger and to strengthen the security resilience of our entire infrastructure and then the company. So managed security awareness continuous training, that's one of the pillars, that's one of the directions, that's one of the approaches. But also the second one, we have to inspect the user's behavior and looking for any kind of anomalies. In order to detect any kind of anomalies the users are doing. Why do we need this? There's another research from last year that although a lot of people, a lot of employees have been trained about social engineering attack vectors, 39% of them, among them, they were unwilling, but voluntary, but still, they, for some reason, have leaked a personal identifiable information about the customers of the companies where they work. So, as you see, people make mistakes, although it's not intentionally made by them, but still, even if they are trained enough, they can make mistakes, right? So that's why we want here also to combine and to put the technology to inspect their behaviors, because people are usually making usual stuff, usual things. So the technology can establish a kind of a pattern, a template about a profiling for each of those employees. And if suddenly he or she, for some reason, is trying to break the rules, the technology can stop this and can save the environment. And here I'll open just a short discussion and just comments about the DLP, the data leakage or loss prevention solutions. My personal opinion is that it is not really adequate to the reality right now, because the DLP solutions basically, they really rely on the predefined rules, which are related to the policies, to the procedures within the company. But what if, there's a saying that I don't know what I don't know. So how the company can know what is the threat, how the company can predict and can write this in a procedure, in a policy, and then to inspect the DLP will follow those policies to restrict an information to be leaked, right? So that's how a proactive approach will be, to have something proactively, not reactively, to monitor and to inspect the behavior of the people. So what we propose and what we recommend is to provide this as a managed service, managed education, and managed users' behavior anomalies detection solution, so that we can achieve this human-centric approach, so that we can recognize phishing much better, much faster. We can also detect the user's behavior anomalies. We can build resilience. So let's put an extra layer to protect our information by turning the power of humans, and not just, once again, using and looking at them and treating them as an assets which we have to protect, but also turning their power to build resilience, to help our infrastructure, and to strengthen the security of our data. That was from us. Thank you very much for your attention. Me and Pavel are ready to answer all of your questions, should you have ones.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much as well, both of you. Pavel, can you join us as well here?
Sure.
To start the Q&A
Yeah,
session?
of course.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you. Okay, one question. Worldwide, the topic of electronic ID verification is gaining popularity due to digitalizing our identities, and the governmental surveillance that come with it would force us to see cybersecurity from a new angle.
Maybe I can elaborate that a little bit, and maybe you can share then your opinion as well.
Okay.
I think that in the future, very near future, we have to think of cybersecurity. Now we're thinking it's something separate, by the way. You can see the discussion is separate from everything else. We have to see it as something that is integral into what we do, and we have to assume it as something that is a must, and we have to achieve from the very beginning of whatever project, process, or application we're doing. Yeah, this brings on the table, this question relates to some extent also to the privacy question, but you know, this is all about trust, and whether we like it or not, we are digitalizing a lot of the services and a lot of the things we're doing nowadays, and we have to secure them. We have to take care of that, and I'm not one of the prophets of this kind of digitalization things, but this is where we're going, whether we like it or not. And yes, this digital IDs, I don't think we can avoid them even if we want to. So better face it, and better be prepared and know about it and know how to protect these identities, rather than try to fight against that, because I don't think it's going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I can add on this is that, when we talk about user behavior anomaly detection and basically inspecting what the people are doing, our employees are interacting with our infrastructure, of course, we reach this point of privacy, and where our privacy actually can reach the limits. And basically, that's an issue where we cannot say a proper answer to this. And the reason for that is we have to have our internal policies. We have to have really strict policies for our infrastructure IT guys who are interacting, who are inspecting the user behaviors, to follow the policies, so that none of this personalized information to be leaked. Part of the question was about the governmental issues, and we just need to add that the government and the law enforcement authorities, which are intended actually to investigate cyber crimes, they do really follow very strictly the national legislation and international legislations. So about the privacy, definitely I'm positive about we are able to ensure the privacy of our employees and our trails, our activities, what we live in interacting with the internet. I mean, as a matter of fact, although you're trying to protect and not really leave a lot enough evidence on the internet, you're still doing that. So we just need really to better protect the maintenance of this data in order to ensure this information.
Okay, thank you very much. And the next one, with this human-centric approach, how is privacy addressed?
Yeah, we talked about it already.
Yeah, actually, that's.
Let's hope we answered your question. It's a tough one. It's a very big discussion. GDPR is a regulation is targeting that a lot. So let's see how it goes. It's going to develop a lot in the future, I guess. Currently, we have to distinguish between personal and business data. So when I'm using my laptop, my company laptop, the company is allowed to see what I'm doing, and that's normal as far as I'm concerned. If I want to do something that I don't want my company to know about, I'll do it through my personal one.
Okay, so how do you image the day after COVID-19 restrictions in relation to cybersecurity landscape?
Right, that's an interesting question. So cybersecurity is a topic actually from I don't know, a bit over a decade. It's been a big topic. The problem we are all facing in cybersecurity is the fact that we are not ready for it. Digitalization is quicker than we can be in getting prepared for it. We don't have the necessary people to be experts in all these things. Everything's evolving and changing so fast. And I think that cybersecurity, first of all, what I mentioned is we should see it as an integral part. Second of all, I think a lot of companies will start thinking how I can now really secure the remote environment, because I believe some of them will adopt that methodology and approach in a more permanent manner than just around the pandemic stuff, because there are certain benefits around it, or at least partially adopted. This is how I see it. I think companies will look into securing how people reach and work in systems from remote environments.
But I also think here, these COVID-19 restrictions, basically they just accumulated this power of pushing the people and the business actually to digitalize much faster. And once they actually reveal the power and so the flexibility of this remote working, I definitely think we will keep, I mean, the business will try to keep those benefits in the near future. And we see what happened with the Ministry of Education, for instance. I mean, there were a lot of programs in the last couple of years trying to digitalize the education, but those programs, they were running for years, and nothing actually nothing happened. The approach was just nothing, and then the COVID-19 just happened, and then the Ministry of Education and all the schools, they actually revealed and they uncovered the technology, the solutions which were already there, but we were just not pushed actually to use them. So now when the business had the chance to test and to see that it really works, it really gives a lot of flexibility and the power. I definitely think the day after will be related with keeping those benefits, keeping even partially part of these restrictions. I mean, just the beneficial part of it as remote working and as doing a lot of our business activities online, meeting a lot of people, but definitely this uncovers another issue. Much more, we're going to talk about the demands of cybersecurity, which will be much bigger than before, just because these companies, when we work remotely, I mean, if we have 100 people, let's say 100 employees in one and the same building, they use one and the same infrastructure, and this infrastructure is supposed to be protected by our IT guys. But when we have those 100 employees in their homes, then we have 100 possible entry points for the attackers. So not just a single infrastructure, but 100 different ones. And that's why it's very important to ensure this cyber hygiene, how it's now famous, this kind of terminology, so that to ensure that although our employees are being remotely, we still can provide a straightened and much secure posture, cybersecurity posture, resilience, so that we can still use the technology but be much better protected. So I definitely think the day after will be related with those technologies, those activities we've been doing so far, but businesses will be looking more and more for security, because that's something which we cannot neglect nowadays.
Okay, thank you. And one more.
Yeah.
What will be the demand for cybersecurity in the next 3 to 5 years? And do you expect the MSSP model to become the preferred one?
Yeah, I already started actually going that direction, saying that we are lacking the resources that can cover our needs from a cybersecurity perspective. And one of the big problems, the big guys, they have these big cybersecurity teams, experts, everything's fine. but they still get breached though, but that's a different story. But the smaller companies, they're actually, let's call them mid-sized companies and small businesses, they have similar demands. Regulation is similar for them, for example, to treat the personal data the same as big ones would, but they don't have the way to achieve that. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the time, they want to focus on what they're doing. So one of the things that is, I think is going to be the next in cybersecurity big hype, and it's already starting, is the managed service security service provider approach, which means that companies are giving somebody else, trusting somebody else to run their cybersecurity protection and program, and even training, if you'd like, as Lubo mentioned, because they don't want to deal with that. They know it's necessary, but they can't do it. Actually, not just about wanting. So I think this is where we're going to go. Actually, the MSSP is something that I think it will be the future of cybersecurity.
Some of the pros, by the way, also in the MSSP model, the managed security service providing model, basically is that you don't really need to invest time and money and in people or resources, because you can just outsource this, right? So when we talk about cybersecurity specialists, IBM has a report from last year where they were saying that over 1 million is the missing employees in relation to the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what is the demand, what is the need of such kind of professionals, and the fact and the chance to find the proper one, the good one, cybersecurity professional to protect your infrastructure is really a luxury. And even if you find such, then it's still, you have to educate him. You still have to spend time for certifications, for much more experience, right? And so it's really a lot of time, a lot of efforts, a lot of money. So the easiest way, exactly for medium and small companies, is just to outsource, just to trust such kind of partner with a lot of people who are already hired them there, who has the expertise, who has certifications, who have the knowledge, the background, the expertise with a lot of projects, and just outsource, so that those kind of partners can help them and can better protect than investing time and money. And the elasticity, it can start just right away, just right now. So you don't really need the time to start this process of cybersecurity. And after the COVID-19, that's what we really need. We will need really rapid, fast adoption of cybersecurity much more than before. So the MSSP model is definitely what will be the demand and the need in the near future. And we see it even right now.
True.
Okay, thank you very much. It was really valuable.
Thank you.
And for everybody else, thank you for joining our session today, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Cheers.